Call the planning and zoning meeting to order. Can everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have an oath of office for the new members.
So you have two new members, and I believe that you have the oaths in front of you, or the oath in front of you. So if you can just stand and repeat the oath and fill in your name there, and then congratulations, you will be full-fledged Leavenworth County Planning Commissioners.
Okay. You do it at the same time.
Oh, we can? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Robert Owens.
I, Jaden Bailey,
Do solemnly swear and/or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and faithfully discharge my duties with Leavenworth County. So help me God.
Welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Roll call. Amy Baker.
Here.
Mark Denny.
Here.
Alan Stork.
Here.
Jaden Bailey.
Here.
Wolf Smith.
Here.
Rocky Hempel.
Here.
Robert Owens.
Here.
Tom Dials. Absent. Jeff Spink.
Here.
And I'm present, Steve Rosenthal, so we have 9 members present. Do I have a motion on the August minutes?
So moved.
Wolf moved,
Second.
and Amy seconded. Motion on the floor and a second to approve August minutes. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Amy Baker.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Alan Stork.
Yes.
Jaden Bailey, I'm going to put you abstain because you weren't there. Will Smith.
Yes.
Rocky Hempel.
Yes.
Robert Owens, I'm going to abstain because he was not there either. Jeff Spink.
Yes.
And I don't vote, so it's 8 yes. Okay, Secretary's report.
Oh, good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Today, you do have on your administrative business, we were going to review the amendment to the bylaws, but that has been continued to October. There are a few things that still need to be worked out. I will ask that you guys do make a motion to start the October 13th meeting time at 5:30 p.m. That is something that will be on the bylaws revisions, but since we will not hear that until October, we just would prefer you guys make a motion to start that meeting at that time. I would also, you kind of already introduced, we do have 2 new planning commissioners, Jaden Bailey and Robert Owens. I don't know if you guys wanted to introduce yourselves a little bit more, but there is always time for that at the end of the meeting. On the consent agenda, you do have 1 plat that you guys will be reviewing, and then on the regular agenda, there are 4 rezoning requests and 1 text amendment. With that, that's all I have.
Okay, all right, and if we approve, when we approve the agenda, that plat will be automatically approved. We will not hear that. So for your new ones, so you all know that when we do that. And your administrative business, you wanted a motion for
Begin the October 13th meeting at 5:30.
Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
So moved. And then that'd be the October 15th?
13th.
13th?
5:30. Is a second on that?
I got a motion from Wolf, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Alan? Second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Amy Baker?
Yes.
Mark Denny?
Yes.
Alan Stork?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Will Smith?
Yes.
Rocky Hempel?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. Okay. Any decorations, anybody? You guys know what decorations are? If you have a special interest in any of the items we're hearing, you need to let us know that you will probably abstain from voting. It's mostly a monetary issue, but anything that you would have, maybe a relative or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, David.
Mr. Chairman, that's a fair statement. I'd like to welcome Commissioners Bailey and Commissioner Owen to the
Thanks,
Planning
sir.
Commission. I appreciate your willingness to serve on this body.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm assuming there's no decorations this evening? Anybody? There's Tom. So we'll wait for Tom to get in place.
Apologies, Mr. Chairman. Ready?
Okay, now do I have a motion on the agenda? To approve the agenda as written.
So moved.
Wolf made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Tom? Ellen again, I mean. Motion on the floor with a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Amy Baker?
Yes.
Mark Denny?
Yes.
Ellen Stork?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Wolf Smith?
Yes.
Rocky Hempel?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Tom Dials?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
That motion carries 9-0. Okay. We're on our first item, and that is, I want to make sure I'm right here, 107. Yeah. Consider case number DEV 21-107, rezoning request from R5 to R2.5 zoning district as outlined in the posted agenda. It does require a public hearing. Public comment portion is limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
All right. Before you is case number DEV 21-107, which is a rezoning request from RR5 to RR2.5. The property in question is at 0 Sandusky Road, which is southwest of the intersection of Sandusky Road and 234th Street. The parcel is 96.26 acres. The request is actually for two parcels. You can see there is the northern one and then the southern one that is an odd shape below it. Both of those are part of this request. The sewer at this is a private septic system. The fire is serviced by the Tonganoxie Township Fire Department. Water is Rural Water District number 6, and then electric service is from Evergy. The Sandusky Road is a county collector. It's a paved surface with approximately a 30-foot wide road. We did receive some comments. Those were included in your packet from the Code Enforcement, Public Works, and the Fire Department. But generally speaking, they were in support. I will say, if you haven't been out to this site, that this sits directly south of the county quarry. That is still in operation. This quarry has been in operation since the 1940s, and it predates any special use requirements. So this will be in operation for as long as the county chooses to operate this site. In addition to that, there is a lifetime special use permit for a firing range for the county sheriff's department that is operated out of this site. So there are some situational or environmental concerns that staff does have as part of this request. So we wanted to make that apparent to you guys here. But more of our concern is that if this is to be developed into a residential subdivision, that the purchasers in this subdivision are aware that there will be some impacts from the quarry across the street that they normally would not find in other areas of the county, such as dust, noise, truck traffic, generally speaking. In addition to that, we have been contacted by KDOT in reference to K16 that runs just to the east of this site. They are concerned about potential traffic impact on those intersections there. So as you probably know, as part of the planning process, they will probably require a traffic study be performed to see what type of impact subdivision of this size would have. With that, the comprehensive plan does have this area designated as rural residential 2.5, so staff is generally in support of the request.
Most of the issues would be if they do ever come in with a plat, that would be where all these issues would be addressed, correct?
Correct, right. The rezone is just to potentially allow for this type of use. These concerns would all be addressed during the plating process, but we wanted to make you guys aware that we did receive those comments. We have considered them, so when it does come time to replat, you guys are not left surprised by some of this stuff that might arise. So.
Okay. Any questions of staff before we continue?
One, Steve, what is going to be the long-term plan of the quarry?
From how I understand it, the long-term plan is that it will continue to operate to the extent that it's operating right now. I believe that a agreement was made not too long ago to blast a second time and to continue the operations there. So, as I mentioned in the staff report, there is no intention to shut this quarry down in the near future or even in the long future, based off of comments received from county staff.
Okay, because my question is, most quarries I've been around, once they're quarried out, they're turned into a landfill. Has there been any idea of this being a landfill later in life, or this will be a legality later on?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Owens, if I might, as best as I can tell, I would term the county's plan to use that quarry for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
There is no plan to abandon that quarry. It's actually a very attractive site geologically as far as the amount of rock.
I visited it. So
It's in there. It's got, rock is not just all rock. That has some very attractive rock in it, a lot of it. And the county's plan is for the long after we will all be gone, they'll still be quarrying rock.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff?
Yes, I have a question. As far as KDOT, did we receive a letter from KDOT?
We did not receive a letter. We received a phone call from them, which we made the applicant aware of. But they just wanted to let us know that they were concerned about potential traffic impacts. And I told them when the plating process would be occurring, we would notify them of that at that time.
That's kind of odd that KDOT wouldn't send you a letter. I've never seen them do a verbal.
Maybe.
And there wasn't a letter in the packet also.
It's not, they're not to the plating process yet. I'm sure when it gets to that phase, they will be
I'm
sending
sure
us
they'll
something
have
in
comments
writing.
then.
Yeah.
Any other questions of staff? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address each time begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. Want to remind everyone that except for the applicant, everyone else is limited to 3 minutes per person. On the comments, the public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Good evening, Commissioners. Joe Herring, 315 North Fifth Street, Herring Surveying Company. Welcome to the 2 new commissioners on board, and I don't have a time limit, so
10 minutes.
10 minutes. I'll probably be the quickest one up here tonight, and I'll be up here on several of them. But, as staff stated, this is a site that matches or follows the comp plan. It is only for the rezoning purpose at this time. If and when a plat comes through, the ideas or the issues with traffic, with KDOT, with the blasting in the rock quarry, will be addressed at that time, and the client or the developer that I am representing is well aware of all the issues if he proceeds to go forward. But again, this is, like we've stated, is a rezone matching the comp plan, and staff supported.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions, applicant?
I've got one, Joe. On the application, you have proposed land use ag. Is that accurate or?
Yes, it is 96 acres.
Okay.
If it is to be developed, won't be developed all at one time, most likely. There are cattle out there right now and a crop field in the back, and we proceed to have that remain until it is developed.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request? Now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. In opposition. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Catherine Patrick, 23199 Evans Road, Tonganoxie, Kansas. Thank you. I oppose the rezoning, which would eventually lead to the development of the 38 home subdivision. What I was looking at in your factors to consider, you talk about not being detrimental to nearby property, and you mentioned the potential traffic generated to K-16, but that is not the only road in this neighborhood that these 38 homes with their average-sized families would be using. But regardless, I think you should not only look at the nearby road network, but you should consider the quality of life of the nearby residents that live in this rural environment. We enjoy our wide open spaces, pastures, and fields where we have the freedom to shoot our guns, raise our cattle, our hogs, and other livestock. We're comfortable running our farm equipment, semis, trailers, and occasionally some livestock down the county roads. As rural folks, this is quality living for us and something that you may not understand. We feel this rezoning would be detrimental to our quality of life in this area. And another factor to consider, you talk about relative gain to economic development, public health, safety, and welfare, and how this will allow up to 38 lots. This location is not near the city's infrastructure. It's in a rural area. It takes ag land out of production. When you look at the local tax revenue generated by land use and the local government expenditures required by that land use, you can see the overall impact on the local government finances. Farms and other open lands provide a net fiscal benefit so that owners of agricultural lands pay more in local taxes than the local government spends in support of those lands and the people who live and work on them. Although ag land generates less tax revenue per acre than rezoned 2.5-acre lots do, it requires several public services, though, for those lots, such as schools, roads, maintenance of those roads, emergency services like fire and police and EMS. Just wanted to bring that to your attention as well. Also in the staff comments, there's a mention of the Leavenworth County Quarry across the road, that they'll be, when they rezone this area, that quarry's still staying. The staff in their notes is ensuring that all prospective buyers know that they will be purchasing a home within close proximity to a live quarry, and all the negative impacts that accompany blasting rock ledges, like noise, dust, truck traffic, and I think they forgot to mention vibrations, because we live close by. Also, want to be aware of the ongoing activity by the county sheriff's firing range, which she mentions. But there's also the explosives training that goes on at that location as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Karen Kellogg. I live at 24009 Sandusky Road.
Can you speak up a little, ma'am?
24009 Sandusky Road. We've lived there for 40 years. I want to start with the county property. I think that it's about time that the county informs the public about activity on the land that they own with proper signage. We need 3 signs along Sandusky Road, 1 along 234th Street, 1 along 16 Highway. These signs must be readable from the road and be in place. It would be very nice by the end of 2021. They would need to say something like, warning, active quarry, ongoing blasting and rock crushing operations, active law enforcement firearms training facility, active explosive ordnance detonation site, absolutely no trespassing. It is wrong to continue to not post this information on site for public knowledge. It is wrong to continue to allow the public's first knowledge of detonation and blasting to be the boom they hear and the vibration they feel, and they will feel it. We have actually seen ripples on our pond from the blasting. Also, too, as far as the county's plan, Cobble Hill is actually a natural separation from Tonganoxie, and therefore we are not an urban overflow area for development. And being protected by Cobble Hill, it has nurtured, as Catherine said, a thriving agribusiness community of family farmers who in many cases are farming land that has been in their family for generations. These families raise fields of grass and for hay, fields of corn, soybeans, wheat, and sunflowers, as well as herds of cattle, sheep, and other animals. There is also a successful winery that grows their own grapes and vents and bottles their own wine. This area is defined by the agricultural landscape. Increased traffic and a higher concentration of people would put farmers and others at risk, as people who prefer to speed past slow-moving farm trucks and tractors and equipment cause accidents. The increased traffic would be huge. With 96 acres, there's potential for an additional 75 to 100 more vehicles. That's a minimum of 2 per home, which almost everyone has 2 drivers, plus possibly a third, like a child.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name is Joe Wilson. I live at 18065 238th Street, and I'm against this rezoning of the land off Sandusky. First of all, I have a question. Historically, how often do you go against rezoning in a situation like this? And I ask this because I've called the zoning department 3 times. I never got the second letter saying that this was going to be rescheduled. The last time I called, the zoning department person told me, ma'am, you need to get over this. My interpretation of that is that no matter what we say, this is going to be approved, and I hate that. My neighbors and I have spent more money on land so we could put our homes on this land to have peace and quiet. We put up with the quarry dust. We put up with the horrible internet, phone reception, and the poor water service because we like the peace and quiet. We like our land. And I think that is what the people of Tonganoxie in your county is saying. You guys have a Leavenworth County comprehensive plan this last year, managing growth and maintaining rural health. You said land first, compensation-based approach to minimize premature development. So basically, the people of Tonganoxie, their top concern, they had 36% of the residents says this rapid growth in the rural area was their top concern. The other was preserving the natural areas of that area, and that was 41.6% of the residents of Tonganoxie and of the county was concerned about this. So if you look at the land when it was put up to sale, it said there was lots of ponds, trees, agriculture, rural area. It's exactly what it's describing that we do not want to go against anymore. We want to maintain this as much as we can. The reason why I'm here, though, is the concern for Highway 16. I have 3 kids. One's getting ready to drive. That road is extremely dangerous, and we have to cross over it to get onto Sandusky. I've had several incidents where I've almost gotten in a wreck. The last one was a couple months ago, and every time I stop there and wait for the people to come on the other direction, I look in my rearview mirror. This last time, it was a teenage boy and girl who almost hit me in the back, put on their brakes. I had to get off in the ditch, or they would have hit the people coming the other direction. So this is a concern, and it's if an accident's going to happen, it's when, especially if you're going to increase the amount of drivers in that area. If you put 40 homes, like my neighbor was saying, that's at least 2 people in each one of those homes are going to be driving, and then, of course, the children will be driving as well. So this has to be considered whenever you're going to rezone this area. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
My name is Barry Pockrent, 23073 Evans Road. I own the property on the southwest corner there where it butts up against the distal part of that plat. I oppose this rezoning proposal. By trade, I'm a physician. I'm a retired Army colonel, and I'm currently active as a physician, so safety is my primary concern and will be the focus of my comments. Primarily, water safety is my issue. I've lived there for 3.5 years, and the water service is minimally adequate. There's great concern for any type of hydrant and fire response for that. I can't not place a decent filter in my system because we lose all entire pressure. So the water service has had 3 separate wells in the 3 years that I've lived there, so to me it's obvious that it's not doesn't have any reserve to handle 40 additional homes. I know my rights end at my fence line, so I'm responsible for not letting things spill over outside there. My concern is that there will be no policing of what comes off this property. All drainage, if you look at the map, from the Sandusky all the way down, will eventually cross my property and beyond. Mr. Allen has property that extends on back there, so he is as well will be affected. My concern is that the septic tank system is what's designed. There's going to be all that's going to be on the surface and the groundwater. How much is this going to get to the groundwater? And well water is what we live on and depend. So I don't think there's an adequate plan to protect the resources that we currently have. My plan is to preserve the green space that I'm very fortunate to be able to own, and having to increase sewage, and there's not going to be any policing of any petrochemicals, raw sewage, paints, hazardous chemicals, and increased animal waste. Currently, there's active dumping of used oil on the Rock Road of the gravel road there. So it's not being policed. All right, so again, my concern is safety for the water source, the water supply, the groundwater. I've talked to several individuals, and I am considering contacting the EPA to perform a groundwater study based on major construction occurring on the land that drains in total through my property and beyond the impact of the surface and groundwater. I do appreciate this opportunity to speak, and again, I do not support this rezoning efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Good afternoon. My name's Mel Gutierrez. I live at 18150 238th Street. I'm a retired Marine as well. So I didn't prepare a bunch of stuff. But one of the things that I've talking to my neighbors is a lot of us have lost faith and confidence in our elected officials, in our governments. A lot of, we can go, but it's already a done deal. I hope to God that's not what we're dealing with here. I really don't. I spent 23 years of my life supporting what this is all about tonight. So, with that said, I do have some concerns. It's already zoned for 5 acres plots. So if whoever wants to develop it is going to develop it in 5-acre plots, that gives it kind of an estate feel. Fine, that is what it is. But you break it down into 2.5-acre lots, what's going to happen is you're going to have about 153 people in that area. Everything everybody's talked about, traffic, infrastructure. You've got a road to the right and the road to the left, north or the east and the west. Both of those are rock roads. You're going to increase the traffic on both of those. The dust is generated not only by the quarry, but traffic going up and down those roads is going to be unbearable for those that live there now. Barry talked about the EPA issues. So has there been an environmental impact study done on what's going to happen if we do develop this? I think that, and I believe that this was turned into 5-acre lots last year. So why do we want to change it into 2.5-acre lots? You're just increasing the amount of people that are going to be there. The infrastructure doesn't support the people that are there. I can't hardly get internet, and AT&T tells me that the tower's full and suck it up. So I'm really interested in what's going to happen when you put another 153.6 people in that spot. So everybody that lives in that area has pressure tanks in their house so that they have adequate water pressure. That's the only way you get adequate water pressure right now is by having a pressure tank in your house. So who's going to maintain the road that's going in there? There's going to be a single road that goes into that subdivision. There's no way out. So from an emergency management standpoint, which is something that I deal with in my new job, I'm really surprised that your emergency manager and your fire department didn't have an issue with a single road going into a subdivision. So I ask you this. Don't prove the naysayers wrong and say, hey, it's a done deal. This deal was made under a table, months ago. Because I don't believe that. I really don't.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition?
My name is Dean Allen, live at 23990 Evans Road. We lived out here for 27 years right now. We have 30 acres. Our daughter lives next door. We have recently bought the 60 acres across the road from us. We enjoy our rural living. We raise our kids out here. We have livestock, have 1,000 bales of hay coming off, and this whole thing just makes us upset. Okay, I have talked to all of the neighborhoods out there, and we cannot find one that's in support of this. And I'm in agreement with Mel. This is one of these things where I think we all come in here and we think in the back of our minds this is a done deal. Well, I hope that's not the case, because this area should not be developed at all as a subdivision out there. We value everything that goes on out there. People that move out here from the outside, they like having 10 acres. It used to be that way. I wish I would have known how they'd done this a long time ago, because we would be in objection to this. There has to be one place in this community where we can still enjoy our country living. This road out there is extremely dangerous. I've dealt with truck insurance for the last 27 years. I've contacted KDOT. I've contacted the fire department. I've contacted the sheriff's department. I understand this stuff. This road is very dangerous. KDOT says this is the worst road intersection left in Leavenworth County. Okay, and we will continue to push and fight because we want to keep it safe. We want to keep it clean. We have a 6-acre pond. All that stuff that Barry mentioned from an environmental standpoint, it's going down there. We can drink out of our pond right now. We're concerned about that. So we will continue to push to keep this area the way it is, and we just ask that you would allow us the privilege of living the place that we like to live. And there's lots of places to develop around here. Dan Lynch is a friend of mine, and there's lots of places to develop. So just don't, we just prefer that they stay in the city. People that want to live in the country, let's keep it the country. You want to live in the city? That's your choice. You want to live in the country? Give us people an opportunity to attract more people that want to live in the country. I drive tractors. We drive four-wheelers. The truck traffic out there is unbelievable. You cannot take a left onto Highway 16 from Sandusky. You cannot take a left off of 232nd off to K16. So people, you're going to say, well, that's the KDOT's responsibility, but I think it starts with you all, because we would like for you to see, just stop the process right now. You can rezone it later if you want to, but stop and take a look at all these issues that are going on, because these are real. They really are. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Is there anybody out in the hall that wants to speak on this issue?
I think that Stephanie would have cycled them through.
You want to, sir? Go ahead.
My
My name's Mark Knipp, and I own the property at 23575 Sandusky, but I live at 24346 Knight Road, and I guess I'm kind of obligated to speak on this because we've owned that property my whole life, and I've watched this whole area develop and participated in some of it. As far as those 10-acre lots right there to the west of me, I had cut off. Dad and I did some development out there and made some money doing it, But this is getting a little extreme, in my opinion, to have this 2.5 when you're, it's almost like city. It's like the city of Tonganoxie's moving out, annexing, but not contiguously, and skipping over other property, hoping to take that in later, because it seems like it's all about revenue. I've got this, my wife found this future land use plan for Leavenworth County, and that's in the 2.5, but it seems like it's pretty much cut and dried. I don't see any farm ground, in this future land use plan. It's all 2.5 and 5, but I know they paid a lot of money to probably have that drawn up saying this is best for the county, but, sometimes people got to step in because a lot of it is quality of life, No doubt it's not what it used to be, but just get sentimental about that. But I appreciate the job you guys do. I don't know how the plat, would this have to be platted?
Yes.
Per se?
Yeah, this is just rezoning. A lot of the issues that are coming up will have to be addressed in the platting process.
Yeah, because like District 6 and 9, and I guess Tonganoxie's buying water from BPU now or something with the line coming from Bonner Springs. My wife was looking all this stuff up. It's pretty interesting, but that'll all come out in the plat, I guess. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Stephanie said there's no one outside, so is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any comments or questions, commissioners? Or I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I'd just like, I'd just like to say that our job as commissioners to enforce and the subdivision regulations and the comprehensive plan. At this time, it is allowed. Most of the issues that occur with this property will be addressed in the preliminary and final plat, and that's where issues about drainage, road, and everything comes into place. Our job as commissioners is to say, is it eligible to be rezoned to 2.5? And from what I see, everything, it is eligible to be rezoned to 2.5. So that's a comment I'm going to make.
Anybody else have any comments?
I got a question for staff. The lots to the east there, what's the history on?
Are you
on
talking
those
about
lots?
like two?
Off of 232nd Street.
Second. I didn't look too in depth into it, but obviously they are smaller than the 5 acres currently allowed. I believe it is zoned R5, so I'd have to look more in depth into how that was developed as it.
So that you think the zoning there is 5?
I believe so.
Are you talking about those small lots on
232nd.
32nd Street?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
can
know
you
the
pull up the
history of
zoning
those
map?
very
That'd be
well.
great.
They were like this for many, many, many years, and
They
it
are
should never have happened, but they did. They are less than an acre each.
Okay.
They are buildable. They are approved by the county to be built on, and they will have septics. Of course, you could never do that again, but that's the situation they are.
So they've been there for a long time.
Oh, they've been there for, I don't know, it says on that plat when it was, but many years ago. So should have happened, no, but
1990.
1990. So I think there's 2 houses on them, and the rest of the lots have just sold to a builder, so I think there's going to be more coming.
I do have one comment. My question to all of us board members are, we go ahead and approve this tonight, and basically from the legal standpoint, it looks like we should, according to the guidelines of what the county set forth. My concern is when we approve this, and this is plotted out into a subdivision, and say we approve that for whenever, in future reference, and I know I'm probably stepping ahead here, but I can see in 4 years, instead of 10 people here complaining about this rock quarry and the noise and the blasting, we're going to have 150 people in here. Is this even a concern for us in the future with plotting this? I mean, and I'm new, so I'm just throwing this out here. I'm just looking at the legality of approving this now, and then we put our foot in our mouth in 2 years from now.
Just because we do the rezone doesn't mean we have to agree with the plan.
Okay, that's
so,
like I said, I'm new here, so I'm just asking questions to be informed myself.
I think if they do come in with a plat, there are going to be, personally, my opinion is there's going to be a lot of things that have to be dealt with on that plat if they come in with one at any time in the future, because that is an area that needs to be addressed. It needs to be well documented that there's a quarry across the road and that there's blasting going on and that there's also a shooting range across the road. I don't know how that's going to be on the plat, but it's not ours to deal with today.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just to continue to answer that, a lot of the questions here tonight were, address the legality of how this happened and why don't we get more say. There is Kansas statute in effect that I researched when I first came on the board and sent out to some people who asked the question. Now, Mr. Van Perry is the expert on Kansas statute here. But there are provisions in Kansas statute to contest and review the comprehensive plan. Our charter from the county commissioners is to make sure that what's filed conforms to the comprehensive plan, at least as I read statute. So for us to go against what's out there approved in the comprehensive plan wouldn't make any sense for us. But there's certainly a way you can go back to the county commissioners, and there are ways that the citizenry can go in through the statute and get a review of the comprehensive plan if you don't like the way it's set up. We can put it out there and have you review it, but we don't get a vote, any more of a vote on the comprehensive plan than you do. I'd love to tell you that we had a magic wand, but I wasn't issued one of those when I came on a year ago. So we don't have that.
Before this last comprehensive plan was approved, they had several meetings all over the county to get input from people. And I attended most all of them just to, listen and see what people were thinking. So people had time and a place to comment on the comprehensive plan, and then it was approved. Our plan is to review the comprehensive plan yearly, and that will be done at our meetings again, and I would love to have public input on what, at that time, when we discuss them again and see what the public wants us to do with the comprehensive plan, and so that could be passed on to the commissioners who actually are the ones who decide on the comprehensive plan and what's to be on there.
Then it's my understanding the county commissioners are going to review it once a year also.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, by law, Kansas counties, all 105 of them, are supposed to review their comprehensive plan annually. Now, that's observed kind of like speed limits, more in the breach. However, Leavenworth County, and in fact it was discussed this morning, I believe Commissioner Hempel was present, the Board of County Commissioners this very morning discussed having the Planning Commission undertake a review of the comprehensive plan to take into account the type of comments that you heard this evening from these citizens and work on a comprehensive plan is a plan. I hate to use this phrase, it's living. It's supposed to be reviewed annually. It's supposed to change as is needed. And it's a plan, it's a guide. It's not scripture. So if it needs to be changed, it needs to be modified to meet certain conditions, it can be. But it requires participation. And these folks have come here tonight to give you input. And they've been heard. And they will be heard. But I will tell you, I believe you should expect a charge coming down from the Board of County Commissioners that this Planning Commission undertake that review of the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I think we need to, and I hope all of you, when we do discuss it, come and give your opinions on it and tell all your neighbors to come also. And if you can't come, email, whatever, to let us know what you guys want in your area and what you feel the comprehensive plan should be. Anyway, any more questions or comments?
I mean, we talked from the beginning that the comprehensive plan is just a guideline. And just because that's zone 2.5 on a comprehensive plan doesn't mean we have to follow that.
That's correct. So, ma'am, public comment hearing is closed. Ma'am, we're through with the public comment. Sorry. I'll entertain a motion or more public comments.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. I move that the proposed rezone is outlined in case DEV 21-107 be approved, that the findings on the golden factors as set forth in staff report as adopted by the Planning Commission and substantiated by facts, testimony, and evidence presented be adopted by this board, and that the conditions set forth in staff report be made part of this rezone.
Is there a second? There was a motion to approve. A motion on the floor with the second to approve case number DEV 21-105, the rezoning request from RR5 to RR2.5. Is there any further discussion? None. Have a roll call vote. Amy Baker.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Ellen Stork.
Yes.
Jaden Bailey. Why are you abstaining? Do you have a conflict or?
Not per se.
Okay. Abstain. Wolf Smith.
I'm going to vote yes, but begrudgingly.
Bucky Hempel.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Tom Dials.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 to 1 abstain. Okay. All right. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item on September 29th, 2001, 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Any person wishing to attend a Board of County Commissioners meeting or give public comment will need to contact the Board of County Commissioners office prior to the meeting date, as space is limited. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days of this hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition can be obtained in the Office of Planning and Zoning. So if you do want to file a petition, contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Otherwise, the meeting is September 29th, right here, same place, 9 a.m. in the morning. Okay, case number DEV 21-118. Do we need to have a time period to get people in and out?
Yes, we do.
Okay. We'll hold off for a minute.
We follow our comprehensive plan.
We got existing ones, we got
What?
No, go ahead.
but before here, it will be a process and the plans.
Yeah. I was in my doctor's office.
And you gotta get
Ran about 45 minutes ago. Gone. And things went downhill from there.
I thought we had to.
Why, if you had a conflict, I mean, we had a declaration.
I thought we had to explain ourselves.
What?
I thought we had to explain ourselves.
Only on a no vote, I don't know about an abstain.
Well, that might throw it in a different category.
That comes.
Yes. It's we.
We're going to hear pretty much all this stuff on everyone we have.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, the commissioners have to change it if they don't want it. Commissioners got to decide they want to change it.
Yeah.
That's where it goes.
Or the people decide to change commissioners, one of the two.
One of them.
Okay, we'll have to wait for Jaden to come back.
Keep this little diagram.
Yeah, actually, I would like a copy of that.
This is the original submission, and that's what the commissioners gave us back. So, actually, for the last action, it's worse. West of Tonganoxie in the original submission.
Now, are these all 2.5 acres? Zone 2.5 acres?
Well, it's the zoning.
Okay.
It's here. All this is 2.5.
Okay.
But all the ag area, see, is left unencumbered until you get the new plan. Now all that's 2.5. We didn't do that. They did.
Yeah, I've got the map. There's A or B.
They keep this just.
There's A or B. Usually I do too. But I didn't bring it.
I bring it over.
I would like a copy of that.
Okay. Consider case number DV-118, a rezoning request from RR5 to RR2.5 zoning district is outlined in the posted agenda. Requires a public hearing, public comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. As stated, this is case number DEV 21-118. This is a rezoning for a piece of property in the corner of Dempsey Road and 227th Street. Just to note, this is a special section of the county. This is one of the corner sections, and so in the staff report it says 160 acres plus or minus. It is very much less than 160 acres. If you can look at the map, you see that it is in fact angled and not square, so it is something less than 160 acres, probably roughly about 140, 145, something to that effect. Just so we are all playing from the same page here. But this is a request to rezone from RR5 to RR2.5 to allow 2.5 acre zonings of that 140-ish acres there. Dempsey Road is an arterial. It is paved surface. As most of us are aware, if it is a paved road and an arterial in the county, we have determined that the areas to the immediately abutting the road are allowed to be zoned residential, RR2.5. That is why our future land use map looks the way it does. And so the area of the county is rural in nature with agricultural uses and rural residences in this area of Dempsey. The property is currently not vacant. There has been a house built on the property since this aerial was taken. As I mentioned, the future land use map indicates that this is residential. However, about, let's call it 3/4 of the way up that property on to the north, it does change back into residential estate. But because we also allow zoning to match what is adjacent to it, the staff's recommendation is for approval, and the staff is generally supportive of this request to become 2.5. The applicant's agent is here to answer any questions, as am I.
Any questions of staff? Okay. Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. Also remember you're limited to 3 minutes per person. Applicant is limited to 10 minutes. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Good evening again. Joe Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th Street. Again, much as staff stated, this follows the comp plan. It's on the hard surface road. The plan was to use that right and rezone to 2.5 acres. And unlike the one you just heard, the previous case, you're probably not going to see a plat anytime in the near time future on this ground. It's probably going to be a couple track splits. That is their intent, to be able to cut off the smallest tract possible for family members and keep the remainder as farming and agricultural use. But that is not what we're hearing right now, but I know we will discuss it during the process. So it's strictly the rezone, and appreciate your time.
Any questions of the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request? We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition? State your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Mike Purcell. I live at 22543 Dempsey Road. I've lived in the county since 1970, and I'm in opposition to this plan mainly because I don't know that we have either the planning or the resources as a county to keep up with this. So I listened to one of the gentlemen in the previous section, and he mentioned that he'd like to do a study about the environmental concerns with the dirt. And though that's noble of him, I would say that that's your responsibility. You should know what the environmental dangers are of putting over 50 and, in fact, probably 75 homes for approval, because there's 60 acres right beside this that'll follow suit. It's owned by another landowner that's already developed 2 other tracts. So now we're talking 75 new homes. That's over 1.5 million gallons of human waste a year for a visual. People say, that's a lot. And I know that we're here and, things are always approved by the board. We've talked to several people and they say they don't know anything that's not been approved. But I would contend that this process is backwards. You should know what the limit is of the land in the soil before it's approved. Is it 1 acre? Is it 2.5 acres? What's the maximum that can be approved and hold before it's approved? Not to go through all this dog and pony when we don't even know. And yet the residents are held accountable 10, 15 years, 20 years from now, the people that live around this. So I contend that we do not have the knowledge to make a good decision on this, and that a study needs to be held by the EPA. That's who says 1.5 million gallons of human waste is going to come off of this subdivision. And it can't be approved based on intent. It has to be approved based on the merit that it's presented on. And that's concerning. That's very concerning. So where is that study? Where is that in the comprehensive plan that everybody talks about? This should be an easy decision. Did the comprehensive plan say 2.5 acres is acceptable? If the following criteria are met, is it 1 acre? Is it 1/2 acre? What's going to be allowed? The comprehensive plan should state that. Okay? The other issue that I have concern about is the ability of the county to keep up with issues of roads and the other things that you've heard of, but we've already had a wreck that's taken a policeman's life a mile north of Jarbelo. There's still no sign there. The county is open for a major lawsuit the next time, and it will happen, God forbid, but it will happen the next time an accident happens there. There's no yield sign, there's no stop sign, you can't see around the corner with the crops, and we're going to induce 75 new homes to this, 150 new cars to this. And the county can't keep up with what it has. 236th Street has been delayed in paving for another 18 months because we can't keep up. So we're going to induce 150 more cars onto that, onto the dusty roads, onto the gravel. Can the police keep up with that? Can the fire department keep up with that? Indications would say no.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name is Amanda Lohman, and we live at 22638 Dempsey Road. Our property backs up to the east of this property. So my husband and I own the adjoining property to the land on 227th and Dempsey Road. Being a wife to a young farmer in the area, I have concerns about turning farm ground in our rural community into 2.5-acre plots. These concerns include safety for my family, environmental impacts to our community, agriculture impacts to our farming community, and infrastructure implications to the property owners and our community. As we currently have a volunteer structure for our emergency services, I do have concerns with the capacity for volunteer emergency services having to service an additional 60 to 75 properties in the immediate area. I also have the concerns for the safety of my home and the homes in our community. The potential crime with the additional properties is concerning given our current sheriff's department structure. The county doesn't have the infrastructure to monitor and respond to calls as it does in the city limits. Subdividing the proposed property has the potential to bring the city to the county. But the difference is that the county doesn't have the public work structure that the city has. As we all know, Dempsey Road is already has high traffic volume. Adding an additional 60 to 75 families to the immediate area leaves me with safety concerns for my community and my family. How will the additional families come in and out of the proposed subdivided areas safely without interrupting current traffic flow? Again, we don't have the road or infrastructure as they do in the city limits because we're in the county. Lastly, my question to the Planning and Zoning Committee is what is the end goal of subdividing all of this farm ground into 2.5-acre lots? As a resident of the Leavenworth County community, the agriculture community seems to be valued. With the continued proposal for additional properties being subdivided, the Planning and Zoning Committee is limiting farm ground from our rural community. As this trend continues over time, the ultimate effect is that we will have scarce rural communities and farming families in our Leavenworth County. You guys all talk about the comprehensive plan, and that you're only here to enforce that. Well, why are you even listening to us? If it's just a legal thing, it's obviously that your decisions are made before we even set up here. So, it just seems publicly wrong. Who's here to service the public and to be a voice for the public if you guys are just here to look at a piece of paper and see if it checks the boxes?
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
I have notes. My name is Carol Lohman. I'm representing my husband Terry and myself. 22398 Dempsey Road, Leavenworth, Kansas. As adjoining landowners, we would like to formally oppose this application that was submitted by Herring Survey for this current address, going from an RR5 zone district to an RR 2.5. Here are the points that we feel are relevant. Environmental impact. Drainage of this property goes into the tributary that runs across the entire property, as you can see in your map, and then it continues on to our 130 acres to the east through natural flow. That tributary has flood events several times throughout the year with our weather patterns. It flows directly into the lower Kansas watershed, Stranger Creek, eventually into the Kansas River, which already has high bacteria counts. The possibility of 60 homes with septic systems and laterals that leach will no doubt bring even larger bacterial counts into that watershed. The State of Kansas Division of Water Resources and KDHE are contacts that I have made for more information for these concerns. Unfortunately, the amount of time between the letter that I received and today, I have not received factual information, but I do know that those are coming. Dempsey Road is my next point. Dempsey Road may be listed as an arterial road in the comprehensive plan. However, if you spend time living on Dempsey, you would know that it is not equipped to handle the pressure of the traffic that a possible development like this rezoning could bring. There are no shoulders on the road. It's already a very high traffic, and we do have a lot of speed issues. Adding the addition of this many possible homes and vehicles will bring the safety issues to light even more for our slow-moving farm equipment, along with our commuter traffic. Utilities. I am a member of the Rural Water Number 9 Board of Directors, and we have not been made aware of this request in our board meetings. Providing water service to a possible development of this size would need to be reviewed by the board before any confirmation could be given on ability to service rural water for this many homes. That, to me, is a huge concern. Why are we getting the cart before the horse? If this property was purchased with a Young Beginning Farmers Loan, which was published in the legal notices of the Leavenworth Times, October of 2019, it brings the question of if this property can even be developed. That question needs to be answered before a change of zoning would even be applicable. And last, quality of our rural lifestyles. As a farm family, we cherish and we make our living from agriculture, myself included. We understand that change is a part of life. However, we do feel our concerns are valid, and we hope you hear us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mrs. Lohman?
Yes.
Just as a point of clarification, in our packet, we did get a letter from Rural District Number 9.
As I stated, the Board of Directors has not been aware of this. If that was a letter from an employee, that will be something that we will address.
Okay. I just didn't know if you were aware of that or not and wanted to point it out to you.
No, I was not.
Okay.
There's another Water District Board member here tonight also.
It was from Karen Armstrong?
She is an employee.
Okay.
So.
Okay, I just wanted to
Sure,
point
that's
that out.
good information, and it will be addressed.
Okay.
Because we have not been formally informed, and it has not been on our agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
My name is Mary Purcell. I live at 23512 227th Street, Leavenworth. You started your meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. And as I listened to the case before us from the office, you rubber stamped. I am appalled. I felt the chairman directed you to do that. You need to vote on what is heard. Step one is you. If you approve this, it will go to step two, which is your comprehensive plan. Your chairman has said that's a guideline. Please vote on what you have heard and don't be step one.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition. Is there any additional information to be presented? Is there anybody maybe in the hallway still that might want to speak on this? I want to give everybody a chance.
Thank you, Chair.
No? Okay. The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are any questions or comments, commissioners?
I do. I'll speak up. Being new, I'm totally new here, first night, so everybody please bear with me. I wasn't part of this comprehensive plan. I haven't studied it. I've only seen pictures of it. And according to everything I see, our commissioners that were elected by you guys, the public, had voted on this comprehensive plan, if I understand this correctly, the way the whole system works here. I think the time to speak out was at election time, and I think we have to do what we're legally bound to do according to the legality of what the plan states, if I'm correct, Mr. Van Paris. Am I?
Commissioner Owens, if I could give a little history. The comprehensive plan has been referenced several times this evening. That comprehensive plan was arrived at after approximately 18 months of public hearings.
Okay.
Mailings were put out. Published notices were had. At least, I believe at least a dozen meetings were scheduled all over the county, north, south, central, wherever. And the public was invited. Comment was invited. Comment was implored. That would have been the time. Now, at the same time, we've earlier this evening discussed the fact that that comprehensive plan is revisited annually. So it's not a forever plan. It's a plan that needs to be changed as needed. It's a plan that is a guideline, but it's not an absolute. So you are charged as commissioners to exercise your judgment on each issue that is brought before you. Each planning issue has its own particular attributes. There's no blanket solution for Leavenworth County. It's each specific case that comes before you. That comprehensive plan is a guide, but it's not an absolute. But I will tell you that comprehensive plan was not pulled off of a shelf somewhere. It was not pulled out of thin air. It was the result of 18 months of a number of public hearings. We invited and received a lot of public comment, and that was heavily considered by the Board of County Commissioners before it was adopted. And it will be reviewed, and it will be changed as needed.
Thank you, sir.
And we want the public's opinion when that's done, and that's where you guys need to, everybody in the county needs to speak up and what you want and see how our county grows. There were, like you say, lots of meetings. There was a booth at the county fair that they asked people their opinions, and did that. It was Facebook all the time. All kinds of ways. In the newspaper, I know, was out several times with it, mentioned in it. It was really published. It wasn't well attended at any of the meetings, and this is where we are. So anyway.
Mr. Chairman, I also have a question for Mr. Van Paris. There was the legal implications of the purchase of the property with the Young Beginning Farmers loan was surfaced here. I don't know very much about that with my background. Are there legal implications that might cause us to table this action until we can get the county commissioners up to speed on what that implication might be?
Commissioner Dials, I would have to defer to staff as far as any background search on this property and whether it has any encumbrances upon it through any federal programs for the purchase of farmland. Certainly that would come into play if any attempts to subdivide the property were made.
Exactly.
I don't think that would affect the rezoning, but it would probably affect the platting of the property. Again, goes back to the platting. The rezoning is just a rezone. It doesn't mean it's going to change anything.
Commissioner Dials and members of the commission, that can be looked into between now, presuming it goes, well, it will go forward with either a positive or negative recommendation by this body. That can be looked at prior to it coming to the Board of County Commissioners for any final decision.
just for confirmation, approval is no guarantee that a plat of any sort would ever be
Correct.
approved.
Correct. Plat could not be approved, and I mean, the property is based, it's taxed on its use, it's not taxed on its zoning, it's not, if it could stay agricultural forever, farm ground forever. It could be developed next week. It would apply in here next week. You just don't know. So until that comes in, it's just still being used as farm ground.
I understand that we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about young farmers' loans.
Yeah.
I'm also sensitive to the suggestion that the county, the onus is on the county to perform any EPA assessments prior to rezoning. I think that's probably a valid suggestion, but my experience in those sorts of things would be on hazardous materials disposition and stuff like that is it's probably unaffordable to do that on a grand scale if you're going to get those in place before you put the colors on the map. And it gets pretty pricey if you start doing that over several thousand acres.
Yeah, great.
But I think that's something that when we get around to a review of the comprehensive plan, that notion of we need to be thinking in that order is probably a proper notion.
Mark, I know you were. How many others were here when we actually reviewed the comprehensive plan? We had the meetings. Didn't we approve a map that was different than it ended up?
That is true.
Yeah.
There was an A and a B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was an A and a B.
That's a good point, because that's one I was going to bring up for the new commissioners, as well as just a reminder for the public, which I'm thrilled that we had this big of a turnout. I wish we had this big of a turnout at all of our meetings, and I mean that sincerely. But we are just a recommending body, and so we could the Board of County Commissioners could overrule every single one of our decisions here tonight. So I would encourage you, and I have a full-time job. I work. I know it's hard to get to those county commission meetings. I watch a lot of them on YouTube, and there doesn't seem to be nearly as many people there. I think a lot of it is because of the time. But regardless of how we vote tonight, I would strongly encourage you to go to that Board of County Commission meeting, because that's where the real decisions are made. So, but to your point, Steve, yeah, I mean, from my recollection of it, the map that we, as this body, recommended was not what the county commissioners adopted.
Correct.
I may be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure.
I'm real sure that's the case. It was a lot less 2.5 acres zoning than what was actually approved by the county commissioners. So that's who needs to hear you. And I hope you come when we discuss the comprehensive plan. And depending on our vote today, a petition can be filed and brought to the county commissioners too. So we'll go into that to see how this vote ends up. So I am at the point where any more discussion, or I'll entertain a motion.
Throw it out there. Mr. Chairman, I move that the proposed rezone as outlined in case DEV 21-118 be approved, that the findings on the golden factors as set forth in staff report as adopted by Planning Commission and substantiated by the facts, testimony, and evidence presented adopted by this board, and that the conditions set forth in the staff report be made part of this rezone. And I want everybody out here to understand that don't mean they're going to build on it. You've still got the final plat that you have a voice in. You have the preliminary plat. This is just a rezone only, and it meets the criteria to rezone. But anything that has to do with environment, drainage, that type of roads and those type of things, the research will be done by staff, and then there'll be hearings on those here. And that's where the real decision will be made on what we're going to do with that property.
There's a second.
I'll second.
Okay, where are you? We have a motion on the floor with the second to approve case number DEB 21-118, rezoning request from R5 to R2.5 zoning district. Is there any further discussion? A roll call vote. Amy Baker.
Yes.
Mark Danny.
Yes.
Alan Stork.
Yes.
Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Rocky Hempel.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Tom Dials.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item on September 29, 2001, 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Anyone wishing to attend the Board of County Commissioners meeting or to give public comment will need to contact the Board of County Commissioner office prior to that meeting date, as space is limited. Kansas law allows a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That protest petitions must be filed within 14 days after the date of this hearing. Additional information on filing a protest petition must be obtained by the Office of the Planning and Zoning. If you wish to file a protest petition, contact the Planning and Zoning Office and attend the County Commissioners meeting on September 29th at 9 a.m. Okay. Do we need time to clear the room for the next?
Yes.
Can I ask a question? Can we get a list of who's joining 1,000 landowners?
You can send an email for that. Yeah, send it to PG. People need to file.
They're all going to do the same.
I'll get good speech by the end.
I decided to go into research and engineering and gave up law. And I stayed in the damn Army and forgot everything
You're a bad man, Joe Herring.
You are a troublemaker. Good Lord.
Huh?
Commissioner, I don't think
What
that
do
quite
they do?
goes far enough.
That's the reason why I mentioned them. That's because there they are.
All right, let's continue on. I guess there's nobody else out there. So we will now consider case number DEV 21-119, zoning request from R5 to R2.5 zoning district is outlined in the posted agenda. Requires a public hearing. Public comment portion limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report. Oh, they are.
Good evening. Once again, this is case DEV 21-119. This is the Willis rezoning. And this is for a rezoning of a 5-acre parcel located at 17326 242nd Street, Tonganoxie. This parcel is on a gravel surface road. 242nd Street is a gravel surface there. The character of the neighborhood is rural. There are agricultural uses, and as you can see in the aerial, rural residences located around this property. The surrounding properties are zone RR5. The property is in an area that is suitable for rural residences and agricultural uses. And the future land use map indicates this area as residential, so would allow for 2.5-acre zoning. So therefore, staff recommendation is for the approval of the rezoning request. The applicant is here to answer any questions you might have, and I stand open for questions.
Any questions of staff? No. Upon the opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address. Each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion is hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Joe Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th. This again is a rezone from 5 to 2.5 acres. Staff supports it. It follows the comprehensive plan. And the desire is to take this into two 2.5 acre tracts. I mean, it's the only thing feasible for it to happen. But again, this is a rezone only. Appreciate your time.
Any questions of the applicant?
What is the road frontage on this property?
The road frontage is, I believe, 465 feet. So with a rezone, it would make the 200-foot criteria.
Okay.
And it would have to be equally split to get it equal ground.
What kind of buildings are on there now?
The one to the north is a residence. The two to the south, one is a garage, which will go with the house. The one to the south is a larger barn that will be, either a portion of it will be removed to meet any setbacks, or they'll ask for an exception, or they'll remove it in its entirety. But I believe it was built prior to 1971, so it's allowed to be on a tract less than 40 acres.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay. Thank you, sir. We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request? Now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. In opposition. Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions or comments, commissioners, or I'll entertain a motion?
You know what this is, don't you? I'd just like to say I visited the site.
Okay.
So you go down Sandusky, and then the next road you hang a left. And you take a couple wiggles in the road. That's where it is. So, I mean, to me, I see no problem with it going to 2.5 and splitting that 5.
I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that the proposed rezone is outlined in case DEV 21-119. I'll make sure, be approved, that the findings on the golden factors set forth in the staff report and adopted by the Planning Commission and substantiated by the facts, testimony, and evidence presented be adopted by this board, and that the conditions set forth in the staff report be made part of this rezone.
Second.
Tom seconded. Got a motion on the floor and a second to approve case number DEV 21-19 rezoning from R5 to R2.5.
You don't turn the first one, you turn the
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Amy Baker.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Alan Stork.
Yes.
Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Rocky Hempel.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Tom Dials.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item on September 29, 2021 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Anyone wishing to attend the Board of County Commissioners meeting or give public comment will need to contact the Board of County Commissioners office prior to the meeting date, as space is limited. Kansas allows a petition protesting decision of Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed in 14 days after the date of this hearing. Additional information on filing the protest petitions must be obtained by the Office of Planning and Zoning. Okay, moving right along. Case number DEV 21-121, rezoning request for R5 to R2.5 district is outlined in the posted agenda, requires public hearing, public comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Planning staff.
Good evening. Before you, as stated, is case number DEB 21-121, which is a rezoning request from RR5 to RR2.5. The property in question is located at 230th Street, which is approximately 1.5 miles south of I-70. It is also about a half mile north of the 230th Street and Linwood Road intersections. The property in question is currently being used for agricultural purposes. It is surrounded by other agricultural and rural residential uses. It is an 80-acre lot that is, as shown on the comprehensive plan future land use map, designated as rural residential 2.5. There is a barn currently on the property. While staff could not find a record of the barn in question, should the property be developed into rural residential lots, the barn will need to be brought into conformance with the current code. That being said, and with the comprehensive plan land designation, staff generally is in support of the request. If you guys have any questions for me, obviously I'm here, and also the applicant is in attendance today.
Any questions of staff? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give you a name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
You wanted to get your chair, Joe?
I'll just keep walking. Need the extra steps. Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th Street. Again, staff supports this one. It is strictly a rezone. No talks of platting or dividing have been really considered at this time. It follows the comprehensive plan for the southern part of the county. The only thing that I did hear that was about a barn being on the property. There is no actual structure on this property. There are some, previous owner had some, what do you call them, Connex boxes up in the evergreen area up in the northwest corner. But there is no built structure on the property.
Okay. Oh, you'll get your chance. Anything? Do you have again any questions? Okay. Thank you, sir. Reminding everybody you're limited 3 minutes per person. We'll now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request? Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to this request? In opposition? Your time's to speak. Please state your name and address for the record.
John Pettengill, 22471 Loring Road. My southwest corner butts up against that northeast corner there. I own 80 acres there just to the northeast of that. So I don't have a lot of adjacent property that I'm concerned with, and I can probably dovetail on just about every negative comment that's come before on the other properties, tracts that are wanting to go to 2.5. I'm against the 2.5. 5 acres is there, fine, leave it there. But having said that, I've got two major concerns that affect me and our property. That property all drains to the east and to the north. It's on a hill. Eventually, those tributaries dump into our creek. And over the years, I've lived there for over 30 years. Great-granddad homesteaded that property. And I'm fourth generation. Fifth and sixth generation is also living on that. And about every 2 years, the soil erosion cuts underneath the old oak trees that have been there for over a century on some of them that I've cut up for firewood. Now that does benefit me, maintains my firewood supply, but it also is eroding the structural integrity there of our creek system. Used to be that I could just step across the creek. Now I've got to take a good running jump to get across and hope I don't get my feet muddy. Some of that may be due to age and my limabilities, but the erosion is occurring. And with additional 2.5 acre home sites going on there, the construction, taking out the native grass area there, I don't know what the watershed problem would be coming down downstream. Talking about water, we are on a well. My daughter is on a well. That particular little section, pocket of the county has been notoriously weak with the water system, underground water system. We were lucky that we struck water, but we have to pump into a cistern to maintain our house supply. The daughter is a little luckier, but she still does not have a good water system, water well. So with additional houses in there sinking wells into the soil, even though there are rural water lines going through there, it's still an issue of residents putting in their own wells, tapping into what little water reservoir that we have. I'm not sure where our water is coming from. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I have come prepared with just what he was talking about. This is a map of the watershed. If you would like to pass that around. This is the other thing that I will be speaking about. This is the wildlife corridor.
Remember to give your name and address.
My name is
ma'am.
Mariam Herstead. I live at 13080 230th Street. I share the entire north border of his land. I have 160 acres. I would say that for hundreds of years, since the land was settled, all plots were 160 to 600 acres. And now somebody wants to come in and bring a city into our rural community and culture. That said, I know you guys don't care, but here is something you may care about. This is the road right outside my driveway. It is a one-lane road. It is a one-lane bridge. At any time oncoming traffic comes and meets each other, somebody has to slam on the brakes, somebody gets to go over the bridge, and somebody has to wait. That is on my land. Here's another picture further up the road. On the south side is the 160 acres of Lola Mae Tornadon, who has also been here since time began. She is 100 years old next month. All of this is the land. This is the one-lane road in front of her land. Okay? This is the one-lane bridge with sheer drop-offs. There are no barriers. There are no rails. This is going toward Warren Road. This is how I pull out my driveway and I have to go across this bridge. This is on the tornado plan. This is a 20 to 30 foot straight drop off of their road, where I showed you that land. There's also no barrier, no guardrail. And a friend of mine, in a high wind from the west, and the new gravel that's constantly being spread, which turned to marbles in the high wind, she ended up upside down in her car with her 4-year-old son in that water. So, here's another picture, just showing how it goes down. He has chosen to purchase a piece of high ground. That means, as I showed you on this map, every bit of water from that land and every bit of sewage seeping underground ends up in my watershed and the tornado's watershed. He will be responsible for nothing. But I'll tell you what, when it comes time, they'll all be complaining and wanting a real paved road. And I will continue now. I am the designated speaker for Lola Mae Tornadon, and these are her concerns.
We don't do that.
I have a signed letter from Lola Mae asking me to express her opinion.
We've never had that, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Well, I think you should have it now.
Well, why don't you give us the letters so
All right,
we
there
can
you
look at
go.
that? How's that? That you can do. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
My name is Tim Herstead, address 13080 Street. I'm in opposition to this. I was examining the comprehensive plan, and by all accounts, there's two concepts, concept A, concept B. Now that's confusing because supposedly you're in support of both concepts, but one of them, concept B, is clearly more conservative, which is expressing the will of the people. Everyone who's spoken, the comprehensive plan supports concept B. So I feel like you could have said no to all of these development proposals on the basis that that would be in line with concept B of the comprehensive plan. So I feel like you need to say no to this. That said, I looked at Plan A, Concept A. It also designates this land as low-density rural residential. Both A and B, rural residential. 5 acres makes sense for that. I looked at the current plan. It all makes sense. 5-acre plots around higher density city zones. Then you have this huge swath of residential open space that makes sense for 5 acres. Yeah, and then, you do the 2.5 near cities. That makes sense. To me, I just see, if you say yes to every single person that wants to make a patchwork of 2.5 zones, eventually you're just going to get the whole county is a suburbia, and you've lost all this open wilderness. And that is one of the biggest things that I say is that there's this huge area of open space, wilderness. It's a wilderness corridor. The goal of the plan is to say for CR1 corridor, ensure development patterns protect and preserve natural resources, open space, farmland, wilderness corridors, water quality. That's part of the goal of the plan. So if you're following the plan, you'd say no to this because this whole area has been designated low density, residential, rural, open space, farmland, arable farmland. We have to protect our arable farmland, our forests, our wilderness corridors. Do the 2.5 near cities. That makes so much sense. Long term, I just think about a patchwork of saying yes to all these little 2.5, creating suburbians, taking away all that forest. I don't think that's the way we want to go. And it's in the plan. Plan B. It says, conserve, protect. It's all part of the plan. So I feel like you have an easy no to this. It's like what the plan is asking is to say no, to just go with the plan. I really hope you guys follow the plan and do this low density and keep it that way and do the 2.5 near cities. That makes sense. And it respects the wishes of everyone who's spoken here. The water quality, there's just a lot. There's a lot leaning towards no. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this request? In opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are any comments or questions, commissioners? Or I'll entertain a motion.
Again, just for clarification purposes, question for staff, and I don't have the comprehensive plan in front of me, but the A and B scenario that the previous gentleman was referencing, if I remember correctly, those were the two scenarios that were considered and given out there. So it was part of the plan document as far as memorializing this is what was
presented.
As
That's
presented,
correct.
but only whatever it was B, I think, whichever one we have was adopted, not both.
Option B was the one adopted,
Correct.
but the plan contained both options in
So I just wanted
the
to
actual document.
make that clear.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the staff recommendation under 1121-121 as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
And that was Mark Denny. Motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 21-121, rezoning of from R5 to 2.5 district. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, have a roll call.
One my objection. If this doesn't follow the plan, why would you approve it?
Sir, comment portion is gone. Roll call vote. Amy Baker,
Yes.
Mark Denny,
Yes.
Alan Stark,
Yes.
Jaden Bailey,
Yes.
Will Smith,
Yes.
Rocky Hempel,
Yes.
Robert Owens,
Yes.
Tom Dials,
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item September 29, 2021 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Anyone wishing to attend the Board of County Commissioners meeting or give public comment will need to contact the Board of County Commissioners office prior to the meeting date as space is limited. Kansas law allows a petition protesting this decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 days after the date of this hearing. Additional information on filing a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of the Planning and Zoning Office. So contact the Planning and Zoning Office if you plan on doing a protest petition. And the meeting is September 29th at 9 a.m., same place. Moving right along, Leavenworth County now consider case number DEV 21-127, text amendment of the 2006 Leavenworth County zoning and subdivision regulations as outlined in the posted agenda. Does require a public hearing. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
Before you is case DEV 21-127. This is a proposed amendment to the subdivision regulations, the zoning and subdivision regulations, in which we are introducing an article codifying a regulation of recreational vehicles. This article would allow for recreational vehicles to be used as dwelling units in certain circumstances, as outlined in the article. This was, some of you may remember that a couple months ago, recreational vehicle language was brought before you, and that was tabled. This is a new amendment that has gone to the Board of County Commissioners during a work session, which one or two of you may have been there during that period. And the Board of County Commissioners has approved this language. I stand open for questions, any questions that you may have.
Did anybody read over this amendment?
I did read this, and I do have a couple questions. It says you can get a temporary permit for your recreational vehicle while you're building your house,
Correct.
which requires a building permit.
Right.
What is to stop an individual from purchasing a property of land, buying a building permit with no intention of building that first year, parking their vehicle out there, living in it, and then getting an extension on their building permit? Because that is allowed, correct?
Under this this article, I do believe that you're correct. That would be allowed. That is not. I believe you also asked what would stop an individual.
Yes.
From doing that.
So what grounds would we, as a planning board, or as our commissioners have, to stop an individual from getting in? I don't know how many extensions you can get. You could have a fire. You could have you could get how many extensions in?
If you notice under section 3, paragraph 2, the last clause of that says one renewal of that permit, that initial permit.
So up to 2 years.
Correct, up to 2 years.
Okay, so we, as anybody that lives in the county, we could get somebody parked next to us in a vehicle, dumping their waste wherever God knows for up to 2 years.
A portion of that statement is correct.
Okay.
The portion that is incorrect, sir, would be that they are required to have a sanitary sewer, so in this case, a septic system hookup.
Okay.
For that, in order, as they were constructing a home, they would be required to tie into a septic system.
Also, I'm sure it wouldn't be renewed if they're not making some kind of substantial progress on a house, would they? I mean, if there's nothing there, you're not going to renew it, are you?
That is a question that I do not know the answer to.
Yeah, further on in section 3, number 3, it says this permit shall be issued at the discretion of the Director of Planning and Zoning.
Right.
So there is some leeway given to staff to make a determination on whether or not.
But I think a correction that I think everybody don't understand is the fact that we won't see that. Staff takes care of the renewal.
Correct.
It doesn't come back to
Yeah,
the
it will come
commission
back
here.
to this body. You guys are giving us the authority to.
Well, we won't see any of it.
No, we won't see any of it. But it's a renewal.
We just pass this, and then it's all in staff.
Yeah, it's all on staff.
All on
That's that
staff
point.
after
I just
that.
want to make sure everybody understood that.
Yeah, right.
Because that was one of the points.
Any other questions of staff?
Yes.
Before we go on?
Prior to this, back to 2006, what were the regulations on living in a recreational vehicle in Leavenworth County?
During what time period again?
What were the regulations prior to this, in 2006, on regulations for living in recreational vehicles in Leavenworth County?
I would have to look up what the regulations were in 2006, but predating this amendment, we did not have regulations specifically allowing for living in RVs. So you were not entitled or could not live in an RV during that time frame. But I'd have to research what it was in 2006. I
What
do
did
not
it
know.
specify on sanitary sewers for recreational vehicles that were being used as a residence in Leavenworth County?
Can you restate that?
Yeah, what were the regulations prior to 2006 for living in a recreational vehicle in Leavenworth County?
That is something we would have to research to tell you.
Commissioner Stork, that's a very good question. This text amendment is in response to complaints the county received from citizens. The scenario that Commissioner Owens outlined is exactly one that we've run into, and that's why this is before you. Prior to this, however, any habitation unit, residential unit, is required to have either a septic system or hooked into a licensed sanitation system. So even if somebody were to have arguably tried to live in an RV, they would have had to have been hooked up to a septic system, or the county would have taken steps to have it removed.
Well, we got a big argument there. What kind of enforcement do we have for this very thing?
If we
Is
receive,
there any enforcement
if
at
we
all?
receive a complaint or we see it, we can take action. Usually it involves sending the property owner a letter stating how they are in violation of the zoning regulations, and then proceeding from there, giving them a time frame to comply with the zoning regulations.
Well, it seems to me like what we've got here is we're wanting to make a new proposal to solve nothing, because this has been going on in Leavenworth County for a long time, and it's still going on in Leavenworth County, and nothing is being done. Nothing. And I don't understand why we would want to even make another proposal until we take care of the problems that we've had, and until we can at least show some kind of enforcement and some kind of regulation that is taken seriously in the county.
Commissioner Stork, I quite frankly had a court case several weeks ago where an RV was being lived in and they removed it because of a court action. So there is enforcement being undertaken. If you know of specific instances where somebody is living in an RV without a sanitary system, please report it to the planning office and we'll take necessary steps.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, depending on your point of view, a lot of what we decide and what we talk about here, the enforcement is everybody. It's the residents of Leavenworth County. And they're the ones that maybe not enforcement, but they're the ones that bring it to the county's attention, and then the county takes it from there. If enough people, if enough neighbors, if enough of us.
What's
right?
enough?
And I'm saying us.
What's enough?
I'm not talking about this board, the county.
Commissioner Stork, does it take seven, or
it should be one. It should be one.
If you know of any instance where somebody is living in an RV vehicle without appropriate sanitary assistance, please report it to the planning office, and we'll take them to court.
But
we do it all the time.
You know, every special use permit that we have passed since I've been on this board, the neighbors are the number one enforcers of that special use permit, because they're the ones that are there every single day and see it and see if they're complying to it. We don't have the resources as a county to go out and enforce it all. So, to me, to answer your question, in my opinion, is one person.
Well, that would be a logical, great answer, but it isn't so.
Well, it may not be.
And that's why when I first read this, I thought, what in the world are we doing, talking about another proposal when we have this going on in the county that we have not enforced for years? Why? Why should we even be considering this? I can understand Section 4, the dwelling units for RVs in a home park, in a home trailer park. That makes perfect sense. We hadn't been doing that. We had made people in trailer parks take RVs out of them. People have been living in them.
Commissioner,
this makes sense, but the rest of it, I don't see it until we can actually show some type of true effort.
Commissioner Stork, can you give an example of people living in RVs where it's been brought to our attention?
I lived right next door to one.
Well, then I'd invite you to contact Planning and Zoning Office.
Planning and Zoning has been contacted by me and at least 4 other neighbors over the last 4 years, and nothing has been done. Nothing.
Well, Commissioner Stork, if you'll provide me notice, we'll take action on it.
That's where we have to go, then that's where we'll go. But it shouldn't have to go to that. I mean, it seems to me like we're just trying to frost an ugly cake.
Agreed.
Any other comments of staff? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This says, since the public hearing is being recorded, the public comment portion is now open. We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request.
Good evening. Sherry Grogan, 16635 Leavenworth Road, and I'm with Rural Leavenworth, Inc. And the organization is concerned about the erosion of property rights, so this is a concern, these proposed changes. And we'd like to ask, what are we really trying to solve? You know, do we have a couple isolated instances where we have disgruntled neighbors? Is it in an area where housing is close together? A good portion of our county is what you would say pretty rural. And if somebody has an RV that they pull down behind their house and they have someone living there, most of the neighbors wouldn't even know it. You know, is it an eyesore? Are people illegally dumping sewage? You know, is enacting these regulations really going to solve the problem? And it sounds like if we've taken people to court, there is a legal process to address issues if they're reported. And then it's already been mentioned about the enforcement. You know, what is going to be the ramifications if someone doesn't follow the regulation? And there are some examples where living in an RV could be pretty beneficial to our citizens. For example, helping take care of an elderly relative on a temporary basis. Temporary workers coming into our county to work. We have the Hills Dog Food Plant that's going to be built here soon. Are we going to have enough places for our temporary workers to stay? And then there was one example about a military person being stationed here temporarily. And then there is just some people that want to live off the grid. They're trying to get back to basics. So there are some valid examples. And with Kansas, we know that about 7 months of the year, the weather is pretty amenable where you can camp and live in an RV without freezing. The last thing is there is no definition in the regulations about RV parks. So it's not clear in the draft proposed regulations about mobile home courts. Does that include RV parks? And we have Suncatcher RV Park in the county. So can a person pull their RV in there and live, or is that outside the scope of a mobile home court? So at a minimum, that needs to be better clarified so there is no gray area when these regulations are approved. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this request? In opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented?
Yes, Commissioners. I would like to address a couple of points. First off, this regulation was drafted and brought forward in order to expand the property rights of individuals living in Leavenworth County. As of right now, and as the regulations were adopted, there is no provision for living in RVs at all, even over one night. There's no provision for that. So we're expanding people's rights to be able to do that. In regards to the mobile home court/RV parks, as I'm sure you are aware, RV parks are regulated as special use permits and are allowed with a special use permit in certain zoning districts. So the mobile home courts were in addition to this, were brought as a part of this amendment in order to allow workers who travel by RV to job sites to be able to park inside of mobile home courts and live in their RVs in that type of environment. So again, allowing for something that's been brought to your attention. That is all I have to add.
Thank you. The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions or comments, Commissioners?
The one comment that I'd like to make is, and it's under dwellings, and number 1, recreational vehicles may be used as dwelling units in a mobile home court. And as I'm sure most people are aware, there's a mobile home park right across from a Hills Pet Food. And that's one of the reasons that's in there, is because there'll end up being a lot of workers. This way we know they have proper sanitation, they have proper water. And also in the regulation is they have to be anchored down. So we're trying to provide a safe environment for them to be there in order to work. And keep them in the area so they don't have to travel to and from. That's my only comment.
Any other questions or comments, or I'll entertain a motion?
Just to clarify, anything that, as long as it's under the 90 days in a calendar year, it doesn't fall under these at all, correct?
No, this allows for vehicles to be, or RVs to be used as temporary dwelling units for up to 90 days on a parcel in a calendar year. Anything over that would be breaking the.
I was only asking because a short term taking care of somebody, you wouldn't have
Correct.
Okay, I guess, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend approval of case DEV 21-127, proposed amendment to 2006 Leavenworth County zoning and subdivision regulations to the Board of County Commissioners with findings and facts.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion on the floor and a second to approve case number DEV 21-127, the text amendment to the 2006 Leavenworth County zoning and subdivision regulations as outlined. Is there any further discussion?
Chairman, I do have one question that I'd like to bring, and it doesn't concern the RV at all, so I don't know when I should bring that up, but before we close this board.
Has it do something with this amendment?
No, sir.
Well, then let's bring it up later. Okay. No discussion on this matter? Roll call vote. Amy Baker?
Yes.
Mark Denny?
Yes.
Alan Stork?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Wolf Smith?
Yes.
Rocky Hempel?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Tom Dials?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners considers item at 9 a.m. on September 29th in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Anyone wishing to attend a Board of County Commission meeting or give public input must contact the Board of County Commissioners office prior to the meeting date as space is limited. Okay, did you want to bring something up real quick?
Yes, sir. Even as a new board member, tonight's the first time I've been here. I've had multiple phone calls regarding this 2.5 rezoning that we've been talking about all night. And they regulate from, we're pushing too many people into 1 mile of road frontage. We're destroying the back half of all this beautiful farmland. I would like to propose an amendment that on a 2.5 acre road frontage lot, it will contain the same road frontage as a 5 acre lot, which is 300 foot. So on any proposed road frontage, if we're going to make it 2.5 acre lots, it's going to be 17 lots per 1 mile of road, which will be the same as a 5 acre lot. And I think that's what our community wants. I've heard from several, literally 75 emails from people I don't even know. And I think if we would consider the road frontage of 300 foot from the 200 foot, that will still keep our rural environment rural on the back halves, and it still will put homes and tax dollars back into our county. And I think we can reach a happy medium with our county.
That's something we're going to have to probably discuss in the future with our comprehensive plan and anytime we go through our rules and regulations. So.
I'd just like to bring that up at this point because that's part of the reason I got on this board is because I do want to keep the county, but I do understand we need tax dollars as well. Okay. So, thank you.
All right. Anything else? Nope. We adjourn.